It was just before midnight when a quiet Utah suburb heard a phone call that no one realized would become the center of a murder case. At 11:47 p.m., a woman named Jennifer Gledhill dialed police with a calm, almost steady voice. She said her husband, Matthew Johnson, was missing. Nothing in her tone suggested panic. Nothing hinted that she believed he was in danger. But the truth behind that call was darker, colder, and far more calculated than anyone could have imagined. Jennifer and Matthew lived what looked like a picture-perfect life in Cottonwood Heights, Utah. Their house was worth over $1 million, their kids were well-behaved, and their neighbors thought of them as a normal, stable family. Matthew was a respected Green Beret in the Utah National Guard's 19th Special Forces Group. People who served with him said he was the kind of guy everyone went to for answers, smart, disciplined, and dependable. Jennifer was known as quiet, polite, a bit of a homebody. Together, they raised 3 kids, 11, 7, and 5 years old. From the outside, nothing seemed wrong, but inside that home, something had been breaking long before the night Matthew disappeared. By the summer of 2024, their marriage had reached a boiling point. Friends knew they were struggling. Court documents later showed they'd been considering divorce, and not just casually. Things had gotten so tense that Jennifer actually filed for a temporary protective order in August. She claimed Matthew was a threat to her. But when the case reached the court, something unexpected happened. The judge looked at the videos Jennifer submitted, proof, she said, of Matthew's aggression. But what the judge saw was different. In the footage, Jennifer didn't appear frightened. She was matching his energy, yelling back, pushing back. And in dozens of text messages, she wasn't pleading for help or expressing fear. She was belittling Matthew, mocking him, provoking him. The judge denied the protective order. He even wrote that their marriage had become highly dysfunctional and probably should have ended long before things escalated. He had no idea how hauntingly accurate that observation would become. Because while the courts were debating whether their marriage was salvageable, Jennifer had already made her mind up. She never wanted a divorce. She wanted an escape. And she had been building one quietly, secretly, through another man. Jennifer was having an intense affair, something Matthew eventually discovered. And when he did, everything that had been simmering beneath the surface erupted. Friends say Jennifer's behavior in those weeks became more erratic, more unpredictable, to the point where Matthew didn't feel safe staying at home. He spent nights sleeping at a National Guard facility instead. In one of his last conversations with a close friend, Matthew said he was done. He wanted a divorce. He was ready to move on. But he never got the chance. Just days before Matthew's death, Jennifer showed her lover a loaded Glock 19X she kept in the house. At the time, he didn't think much of it. Military families owned guns. It wasn't strange. But later, prosecutors would call this moment one of the clearest signs of planning. Because Jennifer wasn't just fantasizing about leaving the marriage. She was preparing to end it permanently. On the night of September 20th, neighbors heard raised voices coming from the house. Matthew had confronted Jennifer about the affair. She later admitted the fight became emotional, with years of resentment exploding at once. But the real horror happened in the early hours of the next morning, after the yelling had stopped, after the house had gone quiet. While Matthew slept, Jennifer picked up his own 9mm handgun, walked into the bedroom, and shot him in the head. He never saw it coming. For most people, killing your spouse would be the moment everything spirals: panic, regret, fear. But Jennifer didn't panic. What she did next was disturbingly methodical. She dragged Matthew's body into a rooftop storage container. She slid the container down the stairs, loaded it into the family minivan, smashed his phone, and then drove his truck to another neighborhood to stage his disappearance. Later that day, she drove north with his body and buried him in a shallow grave. To this day, that grave has not been found. When she got back home, she cleaned. Not lightly, obsessively. Bleach on the walls, carpet cleaners on the bedroom floor, a brand new mattress ordered just days after the murder. But even after all that, she made the mistake that would bring everything crashing down. The night after she buried Matthew, she went to her lover's house, and she confessed. She told him everything: how she shot her husband, how she dragged the body, where she buried him, how she cleaned up the scene. He noticed bruises on her body, and she casually explained that she got them while burying her husband. But the most haunting part wasn't the confession itself. It was how she talked about Matthew afterwards. Her lover was so disturbed that he recorded their next phone call. When he told Jennifer he was scared of her, she said something chilling. "Wow, if you think I could even hurt a fly?" He wasn't a person anymore. He wasn't Matt. In that moment, her lack of remorse was impossible to ignore. She talked about Matthew as if he were a burden she had finally removed. She joked about being the Queen of Hearts who says, "Off with their heads." She even described how she believed society should round up the scum and get rid of them to improve the world. And all of this before she officially reported Matthew missing. For 6 days, she lied to police, to neighbors, even to Matthew's fellow soldiers. She said he told her he'd be gone for a week and not to call. What she didn't know was that her lover had already saved screenshots, reportings, everything. On October 2nd, he finally went to police. When investigators searched the house, the truth became undeniable. A large blood stain under the bed, blood on the slats, bleach in the air, reddish-brown spots on the walls, a brand new mattress that had arrived right after the murder, GPS data showing Jennifer's route to the location where Matthew's truck was abandoned, and then north toward the area she said she had buried him. Police arrested her that same day. But the case didn't end there. Investigators soon realized Jennifer hadn't acted alone in the cover-up. Her parents were arrested weeks later. They lied about how long they'd been at her house. Her mother had even bought the new mattress and reset her phone to erase location data. Her father accidentally incriminated himself when he said he didn't go into the room where the incident happened. They knew. They were helping her hide it. During a search of their home, police found the Glock 19X gun box wrapped in a child's onesie, matching the description of the gun Jennifer showed her lover before the murder. But even with all the evidence, the most heartbreaking part of this case remains unsolved. Matthew's body is still missing. Search efforts have spanned multiple counties involving law enforcement, volunteers, and Matthew's own brothers-in-arms, Green Berets who refuse to give up. For months, they've combed through fields, forests, and remote areas, hoping to finally bring him home. And every day that goes by without finding him weighs heavily on his friends and family. Jennifer sits in jail now, facing charges of first-degree murder, obstruction of justice, abusing or desecrating human body, witness tampering, and more. She has pleaded not guilty. Her trial is scheduled for December 2025. Prosecutors say she's dangerous, so dangerous that the judge denied her bail. There's also the question of Matthew's $500,000 life insurance policy. Jennifer was the beneficiary, but now, with a murder charge hanging over her and Matthew's whereabouts still unknown, the courts are being asked to decide who, if anyone, should receive that money. Meanwhile, their 3 young children are left without a father and without their mother, too. They lost both parents in a single night, one to violence, the other to the consequences of their own actions. And so the question remains, echoing through every courtroom hearing, every news update, every desperate search. Why? Why would a mother, a wife, someone who claimed to love her family choose to end a marriage with a bullet instead of a divorce? Was it the affair, fear of losing custody, money, or something deeper? Something inside her that had been broken long before Matthew ever discovered the truth. We may never fully understand what was going through Jennifer Gledhill's mind when she pulled that trigger, But what we do know is this: Matthew Johnson deserved better. His children deserved better. And somewhere out there in northern Utah, he's waiting to be found. The truth is already out. The evidence is already laid bare. All that's left now is justice.